How often are you fully aware of your anxious behaviors in the moment while they're happening? Or do they tend to be automatic? What would change if those behaviors didn't control your life? Welcome back to Quieting Anxiety by Excel at Life. I'm Dr. Monica Frank, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about something that people often aren't aware of: how tracking anxious behaviors and deliberately reducing the behavior can actually help you feel more in control of your anxiety. Let's take a moment together to start with some mindful awareness. Wherever you are, sit comfortably or stand still for a moment. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Now gently bring to mind something you tend to do when you feel anxious. It might be checking your phone repeatedly, scanning the environment, asking someone for reassurance, or mentally replaying a conversation. You don't need to change anything right now. Just notice it. No judgment, just observation. And now bring that awareness with you into this episode. Anxious behavior isn't always dramatic. It's often subtle, repetitive, and automatic. You may not even realize you're doing it. These behaviors are ways of trying to reduce discomfort or prevent imagined outcomes. But ironically, they tend to reinforce anxiety over time. What do I mean by anxious behaviors? People with anxiety often try to reduce anxiety by engaging in behaviors like reassurance-seeking, checking, avoidance, procrastination, constant mental review, or even compulsive actions like counting or arranging. These behaviors are typically aimed at reducing anxiety quickly, but they end up strengthening the association between anxiety and fear. And the behaviors often become a problem in and of themselves. For instance, frequent reassurance seeking can cause problems in relationships. Our compulsive behaviors can consume an inordinate amount of time. In this episode, we're going to focus on tracking those behaviors and learning how to reduce them, bit by bit. This mindful tracking alone is often a form of exposure because you're not escaping the discomfort. You're observing it, tolerating it, and resisting the urge to automatically react. Even just watching the behavior without judgment begins to break the cycle. Why do we consider it exposure therapy? Because when you reduce the behavior, you expose yourself to the anxiety you've been trying to avoid. And that's where real change happens. Many people with anxiety have the idealistic goal of becoming anxiety-free. But that's unrealistic and unnecessary. Anxiety is not the enemy. Like pain, it's a signal. Just as a sharp pain in your leg tells you to pay attention, anxiety alerts you to something your mind believes needs solving. But not every alarm is accurate, and not every response is helpful. As you've already learned in previous episodes, what's helpful is becoming aware, mindfully aware, of your anxiety. Instead of pushing it away or trying to stop it, observe it. What are you doing when the anxiety arises? What do you say to yourself? What urges come with it? This type of awareness creates a foundation for control. One way to increase that awareness is through tracking. This means becoming curious about your behaviors. What exactly do you do when you're anxious? Do you glance repeatedly at the exits? Do you rehearse what you're going to say over and over? Do you avoid checking your email to escape potential bad news? Once you've identified an anxious behavior, start tracking it. That can mean tallying how often it occurs throughout the day or during specific situations. For example, someone who's worried about their health might count how many times they Google symptoms. Another person might track how often they mentally rehearse a conversation. You might use a simple method like a clicker counter, a note in your phone, or a pin mark on your palm. Let's look at a couple of examples. For instance, if you tend to worry frequently, try keeping a small tally counter like a golf clicker in your pocket. Each time you notice a worry thought, click it. You don't even need to write anything down at first. The act of clicking increases your awareness and gently interrupts the automatic process. I like the idea of a manual counter in your pocket because its presence also reminds you to count, whereas counting on a phone doesn't provide the reminder as it's always with you. Another example is if you struggle with panic attacks, track their duration. In this case, your phone may be the best way to track. Start a timer when one begins, stop it when it ends. The numbers may surprise you. Panic often feels endless, but in reality, it has a predictable arc. By observing the data, you reduce the emotional intensity. There's something fascinating that happens when we start observing ourselves on purpose. In psychology, and even in physics, there's a well-known idea that the act of observing something can actually change it. You might have heard of it in quantum mechanics, but it also shows up in everyday human behavior. When we simply pay attention to a thought, an emotion, or a habit, we often find it starts to shift just because we're noticing it. So sometimes just tracking alone causes the behavior to decrease because the act of observing changes the observed. When you shine a light on something you've been doing on autopilot, you naturally start making different choices. You shift from reacting to responding. You're no longer reacting automatically. You're observing. And when you're observing, you're making choices. That's part of what makes tracking anxious behavior so useful. Before you start observing it, those safety behaviors like checking, avoiding, seeking reassurance can become automatic, almost invisible to you. They run in the background, shaping your day without conscious thought. But when you begin to notice, oh, I just avoided eye contact, or I checked the stove again even though I already did, you interrupt that cycle. You're no longer reacting blindly to anxiety. You're observing the behavior in real time, and that awareness creates a crucial opening, the chance to choose something different. You might still feel the urge to perform the safety behavior, but now you have the option to pause, to reduce the behavior, to respond with intention. And that's how meaningful change begins. Not by trying to eliminate anxiety, but by gradually reducing the behaviors that feed it. And that's where the true power of this method comes, with the second step, reducing. This is where it clearly becomes an exposure exercise. Deliberately reducing a safety behavior, such as checking or asking, is an exposure. It brings up anxiety. It makes you face the fear you've been avoiding. But with repetition, the anxiety begins to fade. And each reduction gives you a little more freedom. During this reduction step, you deliberately challenge yourself to do a little less of the behavior, even while the anxiety is still present. Especially when the anxiety is still present. That might mean checking your phone 5 times instead of 10. Are reducing your time spent mentally rehearsing before a social event. You're not avoiding the anxiety, you're learning to be with it while resisting the urge to fall back on your old safety behaviors. This process works best when you track your progress over time. Don't get discouraged by daily fluctuations. Some days will be harder than others. Instead, look for trends over a week or two. Has the behavior reduced, even slightly? Are you feeling a bit more in control? But even when tracking doesn't reduce the behavior immediately, it creates a structure for using other strategies to do so. For example, after a week of tracking your reassurance seeking, you can begin to intentionally reduce it. Maybe you pause before asking, or delay the behavior, or substitute it with a calming phrase. Your reflection today is to consider your safety behaviors. Write a list. Put them in order from easiest to hardest to eliminate. Choose one of the easier ones, but not too easy, and determine how you could track it. Your task is to set up a method to track it. Do you need a manual counter? Can you time it on a phone? Can you keep a checklist with you? Your second task is to observe and track. If you decide to start reducing the behavior, work with your therapist on the best way to do that. Just a note about the Quieting Anxiety Android app. The mood log can be customized to track behaviors and graph the outcome to help you visualize progress. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is change through awareness. By tracking and reducing anxious behaviors, you're rewiring your relationship with anxiety. You're becoming more tolerant of discomfort and reclaiming your choices instead of letting fear dictate your actions. Let's finish with another moment of mindful reflection. Bring your attention back to your breath. Inhale deeply, smooth the muscles in your face, and exhale slowly. Let your shoulders relax and drop. Now bring to mind a small behavior you tend to do when anxious. Don't judge it, just notice it. Picture yourself simply observing that behavior the next time it happens. What might you learn if you tracked it gently and with curiosity rather than criticism? Again, inhale deeply and exhale fully. And remember, your goal isn't to eliminate the anxiety, it's to change your relationship with it, to become curious, to understand it, and to take back control of your choices. Until next time, keep practicing, keep breathing, and keep moving forward.